Welcome to C60 Health Connections, where we meet with leading experts in the health and wellness space. Today, we are going to discuss the concept of mastering your body's internal technology with Elzabieta Kosmicki. I've known Elza for several years now, and she is one of the most amazing women I know. I'm really excited to have this conversation with Elza today, and also with my friend Ken Swartz, who is a biogeochemist, research scientist, and the founder and chief science officer at C60purplepower.com. Elza has such a unique background. I want to just read you a little bit about what she's been up to. She has professional credentials in BodyTalk, classical Chinese medicine, structural integration, somatic therapy, women and children's health, Eastern and Western Herbalism, Gong, and martial arts. In fact, she's about to become a 2-time black belt in Enshin Karate. Over the last 15 years, her full-time clinical practice in integrative health has included community health, public health, and private practice. She is the founder of Advanced Wellness Partners and founder of Reasons and Season multimedia health education platform and podcast, focusing on ancient wisdom for modern living through the art of creative expression and lifestyle medicine. She currently offers professional level certification courses in BodyTalk, advanced manual therapy, distance healing, and classes in the art of yin yoga, qigong, and Enshin Karate at her dojo in Colorado. My name is Jessica McNaughton, and I am the Chief Operating Officer at C60 Purple Power. I have years of experience as an executive in corporate America, and for more than 20 years, I've been exploring various modalities in health, wellness, and spirituality. And Elza has been somebody who I've looked to Elza as a guide and a transformation coach during some of the most challenging times of my life. So I'm really excited, like I said, to dive right into this conversation with Elza and Ken today. But before we get started, these statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. Any products or topics discussed today are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. So with that, let's dive right in. Elza, it's so great to see you again today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Jess. I'm really excited to be here with you and Ken and dig into what I think is one of the most important topics that we can be tapping into in these trying times in our history and in the public health challenges that we are facing, not only here in the United States, but also globally.
I think this is a huge conversation. Ken, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for joining Elza and I.
We're glad to be on.
Great. Elza, all right, let's dive right into this. Let's talk about our body's internal technology. What are our body's internal technologies?
So I started thinking about the basic functions and the beautiful potential of how these basic functions that are working day in and day out to help us grow, to help us evolve, to express ourselves, and to grow essentially into our full creative potential as internal technologies many, many years ago. And the idea that we have these amazing gifts that include our breath, our heart awareness, our intuition, our ability to synthesize and synchronize all the functions and activities internally that then in turn turns into these external places of health, well-being, and creative expression in our lives is a place that I've been so curious about and so involved in helping people discover for so many years as they, go on their journeys to living healthy, whole lifestyles. And I like to think of them as technologies because really when you look at external technology that is created outside of us by our human minds, by the evolution of our sciences, our arts, our abilities to create and solve problems, all of these things are mimicking a reality that already exists within us. And I think now, again, more than ever, it's so important that we are able to not externalize all of our attention into all these things that we've created outside of us, but to remember all of that comes from these internal technologies that exist within us.
That's awesome. There's so much to unpack there. I'm just going to try to break it apart piece by piece. So first, the first technology you mentioned was breath. So how does breathing and breath work benefit our bodies and our overall health?
Well, everyone knows that we can really only live for about 4 to 6 minutes without breath. So breath is probably one of the most important internal technologies that we have, and our life experience is measured by the depth and quality of it from the moment that we take our first breath to the moment that we take our last breath. So I've been interested in the study and the science and the development of a relationship of breath for over 25 years. I started this journey when I was very young, beginning to look at how I could transcend different health issues that I was having within myself. Through this process of learning about breath, I studied martial arts, Qigong, Rolfing, which I think, Rolfing is a structural integration therapy that helps to realign the body. Really, at the bottom line, one of the biggest goals of it is to actually help people remember how to breathe and open up space to breathing. So through this journey for myself, I was not only awakening potential within myself by exploring the depth and quality of my own breath, but through my clinical practice, I started to recognize that the lack of rhythmic breath, the lack of ability to vary the breath, and the lack of capacity to fully have a complete inhale and exhale was at the core of all of my clients' chronic health conditions, whether that was mental, physical, spiritual, or emotional. The breath is tied into all of that. And so through my clinical studies and through working with people in my practice, I found that if people could simply start breathing more effectively and breathing as nature intended us to breathe, that many of their health conditions and their mental or emotional states that were difficult for them would start to shift almost instantaneously. So because there was such a profound change that clients would see and I would witness in them, I just have been fascinated consistently by the study of breath. And I think really the way to sum up how important breath is in the body is that breath is a watcher of our body. It is the modulator of consciousness. It allows for us to scan our frequencies of thought and emotion with every inhale. And it also allows us to reference what's happening physically and tangibly within the body back to the brain and through the nervous system. And so this awareness and this ability to have a relationship to the internal terrain of the body is really enhanced and awakened through the conscious relationship to breath. And it's something that we all do all day, every day. And it's something that I have found through the practice and art of Qigong is one of the most powerful health resources that we can cultivate to create longevity and peace and connectivity in our bodies throughout life.
Oh, that's amazing. Just for anybody who's listening, today is July 23rd, 2021. And over the last year and a half, we have been really, kind of forced to have a less pure quality of breath due to the issues, that we're challenged with around the planet right now. So, Elza, I know that, when we get farther into our conversation, we're going to talk about a free course that you offer in breath work. But before we dive into that, do you have any just simple tips and tricks that you could share with our listeners today so they could start breathing properly and getting, full access of their lung capacity in order to start feeling better, almost like you said, instantaneously? So maybe could you just walk us through, Ken and I, through a little exercise that we could do along with our listeners?
Sure. I think one of the most important things that we can do, aside from having, somebody guide us or tell us how to breathe or show us where to breathe, is to actually set a timer and check in with our breath at least 3 times a day. If you don't check in with your breath, if you don't say, oh, wow, like I feel really restricted here, or, oh, I feel really expanded here, then you don't have that own internal awareness that you own as a relationship to yourself, right? So one of the things I suggest clients to do is set a timer for when they first wake up, when it's mid-time day, as well as when it's wind down time just before bed, and to take 5 minutes to simply do rhythmic belly breath.
Okay.
So I will lead you guys through a very simple rhythmic belly breath. And this is something that our listeners who are out there can, tap in with us, do this. And it's so simple that you can remember how to do it by just doing it. And then you can repeat it every day and check in with yourself. So one of the things that restricts our breath is our posture. So many times we're slumped over, our legs are crossed, we're not sitting up in our bodies. So let's just check in with where we're at in space. So I invite everyone who's listening to just put your feet flat on the floor. If your legs are crossed, you can uncross them and then just check in with where your feet are on the ground. Make sure they're not turned or they're not, that they're evenly connecting to the ground. Follow that awareness of the connection of your feet to the ground up into your pelvis, and then just adjust your sits bones. Notice, are you slumping? Are you leaning forward in your pelvis? Are you leaning back? Try to notice that you can equalize space of energy between both sits bones, right and left. And then hands can come gently onto your lap. And now that you've anchored the lower half of the body, let's try to drop the breath into that lower half. Most of us breathe like up here with these big kind of exaggerated breaths and think that we're just using our lungs to breathe, but we actually have 4 diaphragms that we use to breathe. And so let's try to activate these lower 2 diaphragms, the pelvic and the breathing diaphragm, by noticing as you inhale that your belly gets big. As you exhale, notice that the belly falls. Try to direct the breath all the way down to the lowest part of the pelvis that you can. Starting that breath from that low belly, expanding just under the diaphragm, and then sinking and allowing that breath to return back to the center. Noticing that inhale travels from the center to the surface of the belly. And the belly softens, sinking, rooting pelvis, knees, and feet deeper into the earth. Any parts of the body that feel like they want to pull upward, just reset and go back to that belly breath, bringing that intention of the breath low into the body. We'll take just one more cycle of breath here. Inhale from the center to the surface. And exhale right back to the center of the core. Just a few moments even of connecting in and grounding the breath can change the entire breath rhythm for the rest of the day.
That's awesome. So I'm curious, thanks for taking us on that little exercise. How does breath impact or support the nervous system?
Well, like I said, the breath is the carrier or the watcher of information in the body. It's tracking with every inhale, thoughts and emotions and higher frequencies. And with every exhale, it's tracking what's going on physically and tangibly in the tissues. So the bones, the muscles, the organs, even the fluids of the body. So the breath is essentially a source of awareness that communicates with the nervous system by bringing that attention and awareness to all parts of our body. Then our nervous system has the ability to open up and connect to those parts that have maybe been shut down because we've been, collapsed or restricted or not fully breathing. So it essentially works hand in hand to wake up awareness within the body and carry the information of the nervous system to and from the body.
Thank you. I want to ask you about your next technology. You mentioned heart awareness. So what is heart awareness? What does it mean? How do you cultivate it? And how can it be beneficial to our health?
So the ancient Chinese consider the heart to be the emperor. It is the wisdom.
Emperor?
Yeah, the emperor. So the wisdom keeper that keeps all aspects of the body in check. And we know that even from modern research and science, there's a fascinating research industry, not industry, but a research organization, the HeartMath Institute, that for the last 25 or 30 years has been at the forefront of understanding the power of the rhythm of the heart, the coherence of the heart, the capacity of the heart. And it has been scientifically proven that every single cell in our body responds to every single heartbeat. So there's this idea that we have this wisdom center, this place where our heart is responsible for holding our, what we call Shen, or our emotional intelligence. It modulates our 5 emotions. It is the center and source of our capacity to express and share in life. And so all of these aspects of our internal wisdom and expression are feeding information to every single cell, almost encoding every single cell with every single heartbeat, our identity and our sense of, who we are in ourself. So as we can find a cultivated relationship to that inner emperor and begin to listen to that inner emperor and begin to provide that inner emperor a attention and space to be at the forefront of how we, dictate and move through our lives, we start to have more synthesis and also encode every single part of our body with the truth of who we are. So when our heart is shut down, when our heart is broken, when our heart is not fully able to express, then essentially the aspects that aren't being expressed aren't getting encoded into who we are, and our being essentially doesn't become fully actualized. So there's this really beautiful relationship of the mind-body connection as it relates to the heart. And we know that the heart has its own, what we call cardiac intrinsic nervous system that modulates the way that the mind thinks. So our heart's coherence and ability to be clear, rhythmic, and harmonic actually supersedes our ability to have clear thought and to have cognition and allow for our ego to do its job in the way that it's designed to do. So when the heart is online, everything else comes back online effectively and efficiently. And there's so many different technologies and approaches to looking at the way the heart rhythm varies, the response of the heart rhythm to specific stimuli, to sensory experiences, to recollection of memory. The heart's electricity system it's completely fascinating. But what's exciting about the fact that it can measure, all these technologies and tools can measure these internal responses and rhythms and patterns that arise from the heart, is that same electromagnetic field that science has been looking at can be cultivated through breath awareness, through practices like Qigong, and through which most people who have heard of the HeartMath Institute, their approach to the simple state of being in gratitude for yourself and for all the beautiful resources in your body, as well as gratitude for the world around you. All of these things change the heart rhythm and the heart rate variability almost immediately and start to create a better state of harmony and coherence within the heart by simply just giving it some attention.
That's amazing. So if somebody has noticed that their heart has started to shut down, due to all of the things that we've been going through, whether it's social distancing or just frustration from hearing, all the negativity and just propaganda that's out there. If somebody wanted to utilize gratitude as a tool to tap back into their heart and open it up, do you have a recommendation for a simple exercise that somebody could do?
Yeah, the HeartMath Institute's quick coherence technique is literally a 2 to 3 minute exercise that guides individuals through heart-centered breath, through sinking their awareness and intention into the heart, and then bringing up a feeling of true appreciation, something, maybe a pet, maybe a place in nature, maybe a family member, something that we truly, truly appreciate, and then sustaining and breathing that feeling of appreciation into the entire body And then what's really interesting is that the heart is not bound by space or time, so that we can take that feeling of gratitude and that appreciation, and we can actually send it back to that which we appreciate. So it opens up this connection field that a lot of people are feeling shut down around. And then knowing that you can take just a little bit of time every single day and open that connection field up, it's going to start to enhance all the relationship that you have with everything around you, because the heart field itself is the dynamic resonant link between us and other people, plants, animals, and also all planetary energies. So just taking a little bit of time to literally intend that you're opening up that appreciation and you're sharing that space of connection, it starts to bleed into, no pun intended, all parts of the world around you. Yeah, that heart math quick coherence technique is really amazing. And then also I love the simple qigong exercises of the elemental qigong, of like opening and expanding through the heart field and breathing and condensing energy into it and just paying attention to it.
Awesome. All right. The next technology, intuition. I'm curious, does everybody have intuition or only some people? And if everyone has it, how do we cultivate it?
Everybody has intuition.
Yay.
And it can be cultivated. It could be, the rumble in your tummy when you get nervous. It could be a little weakness in your knees when something's about to happen. It could be knowing that, someone's thinking about you because you're hearing, maybe you're thinking about them. And then 10 minutes later, your phone rings and there they are calling you. It could be just those gut feelings, that gut awareness. So the intuition speaks to everyone on different levels through our senses and through subtle biofeedback in our body. And intuition is designed to not only protect us, to keep us engaged with a healthy responsiveness to the environment around us, but to also evolve the creative intellect and to be able to vision and dream and bring new creations into existence through a connection to whether it be our higher self or it be our truth that we talked about within our heart, and a way that we can imagine and vision that into existence. So people's intuition gets shut down because of overstimulation, because of trauma, because of being literally shut down by, caregivers when we're young, or having our heart broken, or, having oppression or restriction or fear. All of these things can kind of shut down and stop us from listening to those things. They might still be happening, those little subtle communications, but we learn to not listen to them. We learn to not trust them. And that is through so much, again, of our social conditioning and our lifetime experiences. But the great thing is that, by clarifying our physical, mental, and emotional bodies and clarifying the amount of stimulation and information that we put into our bodies, we're going to naturally kind of scrub off the layers that are hiding that intuition. And it's naturally going to just start communicating to us. And it's just a matter of us learning to pay attention to it and learning to trust ourselves, which goes back into this relationship that we have to our heart and to trusting our own inner wisdom as well.
That's awesome. When you say you clarifying, are you talking about limiting what types of information we kind of take into our psyche? Could you expand a little bit on kind of where you're going with that?
This is huge. And this is why I actually became so interested in the work that you guys are doing over at C60. And, Ken and I have had great lengthy conversations on, health as it relates to mental, physical, and emotional aspects, how C60 is such a powerhouse for supporting the physical terrain of the body, supporting all of the detox pathways, making sure that all of the cells are working the way that they need to work, making sure that, our bodies are healthy. That's the main thing, is like this physical terrain of our bodies, making sure that it's firing on all cylinders. And then once the physical body is working, the emotional body has the ability to expand and grow. And we can, utilize the beautiful gifts that we have to project and bring what's inside of us back into the world versus having to just be bombarded by information. Do this, be this, drink this, cover this. Don't look at that. Don't talk about that. All of those oppressions that exist around us, well, whether it be through media, whether it be through, physical oppression of things like, poverty or inequities. We have a choice to take on the way these things impact us, or take them and internalize them, or to essentially create and manifest the world that we want to create through what is inside of us, versus, hollowing out this relationship of what we have inside of us and then replacing it by all of, I know Ken calls it the fear porn and the information and the confusion and the belief systems and, all of those things that just really dull down our sense of who we are and our truth.
Yeah. Ken, any comments or things that you want to add in here? Because we've covered three technologies so far: breath, heart awareness, and intuition. Any comments there on how those things have benefited you in your life?
Oh, well, obviously, good oxygen is key. I mean, if you can't get oxygen to your tissues and organs, your brain, things are not going to function. And I think a lot of times, especially children, never really learn how to breathe because of the various ways they're raised. They're always kept in the crib or whatever. That's something that probably should be done. Is children should be taught a lot of this stuff. And of course, I've read the heart math stuff, and that's really important. And I think, a lot of people get emotional traumas in their life, can just put blockages there, which you have to work on to get rid of. And the same way with intellectual blockages. I mean, when I spent as much time unlearning a lot of stuff I learned in school. It took almost as much time as it took to learn it. So, just and having that choice, I think intuition, is just something that has to be developed. I think it's there, but it has to be developed. You have to listen to I don't know, your heart, your mind, whatever it is. It just kind of happens.
Yep. All right, Elza, let's go on to the next technology you mentioned, intention. I'm curious, from your perspective, what does it mean to be intentional? And why is it so important for us to be intentional with our words, actions, and our thoughts?
Yeah, so intention is huge. There's a Chinese medicine saying that the qi flows where the intention is. So where our thoughts go, the qi follows it. So if we are, and this is fascinating through my work as a healing arts professional, as well as teaching and certifying people in healing arts from a more subtle energetic realm, we know that the hand of the healer is able, through their intention, to change its hertz cycling, so its energetic output, based on its intention. So let's say, for example, I'm working on someone or working with their body, and I'm intending to work at the bone level. The vibration that comes out of my hand is going to be matching their bone level. If I shift my awareness and intention to focus on the muscle level, that vibration is going to dynamically change to match the muscle level. So we have this amazing intelligence, this subtle capacity to intend, and like an electromagnetic field. It's like a morphic field of information that is contained in these vibrational qualities that gets projected out into the world around us, whether that be in our hands as healers, whether it be in our hands as a painter, or how we type and write our, manifestos and manuscripts, or how we do our scientific research. Our intention and having an understanding of how to utilize intention for a structural, systemic, tangible result in the world around us is the underpinning of all our ability to create. And so I remember, even back when I was in massage school, there's a poster on the wall and it says, "Intuition is blind without intention." So there's a subtle knowing, a felt sense, a deep kind of passion and awareness that gets woken up within us when we pay attention, like Ken said, to listening to our mind, listening to our heart, listening to those subtle senses. But then it's like, okay, well, what do we do with it? Where do we put it? how do we want to package it and how do we want to express it in the world? So our thoughts are so powerful, not only because, like I said, they're like morphic fields of information that are getting projected out into the world around us, but that's what our body is basically seeping itself in too. So if we have negative thoughts about ourselves, our body is going to say, well, I guess I'm fat and ugly and sedentary and can't move well. So then our body starts to be a little bit fat, sedentary, ugly, and not able to move well. So we there's this idea of downward causation that at the mental level, the egoic mind, the thought mind has an impact on the energy body, the vital energy of, our nervous system, the way that our chemicals are moving and shifting and changing in the rhythms of our body. And then that in turn impacts the physical body. So it's a trickle down effect that these thoughts basically sink down and become material reality. For anything to happen, you first have to think it. Mm-hmm. And the more we can refine how we think and be clear about what we think, be clear about what we intend to bring into the world, the more powerful that we can be as creative human beings and, solving and resolving some of the turmoils and the destructions that are around us into harmony and balance and happiness, really. So yeah, the thought field realm is such a powerful one. And it's one that is deeply infiltrated by our own beliefs, like Ken alluded to, traumas. It could be emotional traumas. It could be, physical traumas. It could be stories through our family lineages that came down and we think and believe a certain way. And then we put the layer on top of that of mainstream media or social media or school or social systems and government systems and societal norms. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, who am I underneath all of this? If all of that information is informing what I tangibly am, we have to really clarify what's ours and what was given to us.
Yep. And then I think you have to make the decision of the things that were given to you. Do they actually serve you? Do you want to keep them? Or, like Ken said, do you want to unindoctrinate yourself? Do you want to pull apart those layers, unlearn those things that weren't serving you and probably weren't even necessarily true in the first place? So I think that's really critical. So sounds like intentionality really is like potentially connected to self-awareness as well, and being present with your awareness with yourself.
Right. And knowing why you do something. I was just having a conversation with my 13-year-old daughter, and it's so interesting because I might have this conversation with a 50 or 60-year-old man or woman in my clinical practice that's never heard of this in their entire lifetime. And I was telling her, that if she has a certain behavior that is creating a certain result or pattern in her life, there's a subconscious story going on, whether it be her anger or whether it be her dissonance with her sister or it be feeling left out. Those kind of things that get buried where we say, oh, I don't have a problem with that. Oh, that's not an issue. When they get buried, they become our subconscious mind and then they become our behaviors. So being able to really have that awareness of, wow, I'm behaving in this certain way and I'm not intending this outcome to happen, but it keeps happening. You have to go figure like, wow, what's really going on? So giving like Ken said too, giving our children the technology understanding of their subconscious minds, how they breathe, how they store information, how that impacts behavior, how that impacts choice. So they don't end up being 50 or 60 years old on the therapist's couch, right, trying to, unpack and indoctrinate themselves from a lifetime of lies that they have been telling themselves. So I think, my major passion in the recent years has really evolved into teaching children and teaching them through body-based awareness, through embodiment, through martial arts, through philosophy, and through awakening, like these kind of conversations that are, adult in their dynamics. Like, the kids get it. And if they have this knowledge, then they're going to have a whole revolution on how they can power up their potential through their thoughts.
Yeah. Do you think that self-awareness is one of the keys that's important for synthesis of all these technologies, the breath, the heart awareness, the intuition, the intention? how do they all come together?
So self-awareness, that, back to that idea that the heart is the emperor, it's the center of our universe, it's the intelligence, it's the wisdom keeper, it's the link between us and the world around us. When we have knowledge of self, this actualization of I am, everything organizes around it. There's a quote that I use often when I'm teaching, and it's centered around this idea of where disease comes from. And the quote is that every disease that man has is a reflection of his misperception of himself in the universe. So having knowledge of self, having I like to say overstanding, so not being under it, but really standing on top of that wisdom, provides us this opportunity to not get thrown off course, to not be fooled, to not feed ourselves bad things, because we are so valuable and we have such a deep connection and relationship to ourselves that we want to care for our bodies. We want to be taking deep, nourishing breaths. We want to be, feeding our body the resources that it needs: water, minerals, foods, exercise, relationships that are right for us. So yeah, it's really at the center core, from my clinical work over so many years, that it's once that knowledge of self is integrated and actualized and then downloaded into the nervous system, the immune system, and the endocrine system, pretty much all your health pathologies have the potential to fade away, or you have a potential to grow beyond them and integrate the different things that, you've had to go through in your life, and actually not be a victim of them because you have that uplifted overstanding of self.
Yeah, I love that. Ken, you talk a lot about taking back control over your health. And I think that's exactly what Elza is saying, is that we can be empowered in our health and wellness journey. And we have the potential to be, very powerful in healing ourselves. Do you want to add anything to that, Ken?
Well, I think it comes back to what Elza was saying. It's like intention. If you want to have good health, you have to have the intent to have good health. And it's not just to the intent, you have to actually apply it. I mean, you have to eat right, drink the right food, get the exercise, make the time to do the sleep. You have to do all those things. So it's intention followed by action. But first you have to have the intention, then the action, then you get the result. I mean, it's the basic way how pretty much everything works successfully.
So true. Let's shift gears a little bit, because we've talked about this, and I'm curious, Elza, what your thoughts are on the impact of technology on our society today. And I'm curious if you think we might be at a crossroads with, whether or not this technology is beneficial or detrimental to our health.
Yeah, I think we are at a crossroads, certainly. And it goes back to the intention and the action that Ken just mentioned. We're in a time where our age of information and the capacity for information sharing has evolved dramatically, to the point where it has created more unification, more alignment, more organizing, more ability for people to come together and be aware of what's happening. Nothing is going unseen, pretty much. However, on the flip side of that, we have also altered our tangible physical reality to exist in a virtual space or a holographic reflection of ourselves. And what's important is that where our intention is of how we use this rapidly technology is that what actions are we going to take with this? How are we going to employ these technologies to work for us? And so one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is this idea that when we hollow out a relationship to the self, when we hollow out or disconnect from our breath, from our heart, from our body's needs, something's going to get replaced in there. Information, we've created a space or a void within us. So whether that be the technology gets put in, or the addiction gets put in, or it be the enslavement gets put in, you name it. We have to, at this time, with the rapid evolution of technology, particularly artificial intelligence, we have to have a unified relationship of embodied, actualized human intelligence and human technology to then allow that technology to work for us, because technology doesn't have a soul. We do. as humans. Nature has a soul. We have a dynamic pattern, rhythm, synthesis, reflective relationship to nature. And there's this intelligence and pattern language that is unfolding within us, within our environments, within the stars, the universe, and the planet, overall right now. And it is that, it can't be algorithmed. It can't be mathematicized. It can't be like broken down into these like non-living linear systems, because our human system is dynamic, it's multidimensional, and it does follow patterns. And there's an overlapping of this bridging of science and spirituality that I think we can be at the precipice of new discoveries, new potentials, whether that be through education and information sharing, whether it be through scientific research, it be through building and relationships to nature. Technology is here, and it is something that we as a human race, as human individuals, as soulful people have to reclaim ourselves to be able to make it work for us, so that it doesn't replace those intelligences within us and we don't become vacant and run and oppressed by our technology. So I think it really lies in the question of how are you relating to yourself and allowing this to work for you versus work against you.
Yeah, I think it's really important too for people to be able to use discernment when using technology or consuming information that comes through technology. Being able to identify what's the agenda of whoever is sharing that information. Is there possible manipulation going on? And being able to kind of pull back the layers and use proper discernment to understand, like, is this information actually true or not? And following up and doing your own research and homework, instead of just taking the information at face value as if it's 100% accurate. Ken, any comments on that?
I agree with what Elza said on that, and it's your use of it too. I mean, you just a lot of people like television. People just sit down there and turn it on for hours at a time, and I mean, the television puts your brain back into a delta state. So you're not fully functioning. Whereas they believe what the fear porn news at 6 o'clock is telling them, and so you really have to go out and search. I think you have to take, just as you can't be a passive absorber of information. You really have to be an active. If you want to learn something, go out and learn it. Go out and find your sources for news and other things. Don't just let somebody tell you what the news is and how to believe.
That's true. Also,
just to add to that, it's really one of the quickest ways to stay in touch with that truth meter that you talked about, Jess, that idea of like, is this true? Is this resonate with me? Is stay in touch with reality. Like, go hang out with your friends, go take a hike in nature, go to the birthday party, don't just send, the e-card and like the virtual attendance, like actually physically get into the world, physically touch people, physically be in yourself. And then you're going to have a better meter of like, wait, is this really, because there's reality. And then there's this other realm, which is, it's still reality, but it's a holographic energetic field. And those field effects have a dynamic relationship and they have an impact on the reality. So we need to be able to understand how those two things come together and relate. And the more we can like unpack that and be integral, the less we're going to get fooled. And, I think cook food, hang out with your friends, touch them, like
get a hug, go to a birthday party. Have some fun with your friends, get out in nature. I love it. Hike and hear the birds, get some fresh air, enjoy the sunshine. And use food as medicine. Let's talk about that. You are an expert in lifestyle medicine, and man, you have come up with some amazing recipes. And we've thoroughly enjoyed collaborating with you and participating with your with your platform. And I'm wondering, can you just dive into talking to us about the importance of nutrition and how can food be true medicine for us?
I mean, it's pretty simple. I'll explain it in a little more esoteric realm, even though it's really simple. I believe that we are the convergence of light and sound. And the way that we nurture our bodies is through vibration. And what better way to do that than to take what this beautiful gift of the daily, 12 hours of sun and daylight, of warmth and, beautiful life-giving potential that the sun provides us, and take what it is processed into, like plants and animals and natural, tangible things that grow in nature, and then feed this beautiful vehicle of our body. We are what we eat. You can go into the idea of the doctrine of signatures. You can look at how, things like, vegetables and fruits and, different occurrences in nature, they look like certain things within us. Like the carrots look like eyes. Avocado looks like an ovary. The tomatoes look like a heart. The mullein leaf, which is phenomenal for the lungs, looks like a lung when you actually look at the actual plant. And so having a relationship to food in its whole form, and having a relationship to how you acquire it, whether that be through growing it, through supporting local farmers markets, or through shopping for yourself, through, I know a lot of people get like their groceries delivered nowadays. It's like, well, what's it like to actually go through the grocery store and feel like, wow, I'm really drawn to that plum and that beautiful red color. And my mouth starts to water when I get closer to that, piece of amazing, succulent, wonderful fruit. So having the whole sensory experience and the engagement of a relationship to the food, a relationship to cooking for yourself, a practice of nourishment. I mean, this conversation can go on and on and on for days. But again, I think it comes all the way back down to intention and action. People learning, it goes even far beyond that to looking at our cultural practices of, how we share food, how we gather, what is our traditional diets, what is growing around us, what is seasonal, and, hyper-localization, seasonal eating, being in relationship to the food that is growing wild around your environment. All of these things, I think, are topics that could evolve into, an entire book, maybe, or entire 10 different episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the intention and the relationship that you have to it, and then what you do with it.
Ken, you are what I describe as a master gardener. You've got a serious green thumb. You probably could grow, I don't know, a garden in the middle of a snowstorm. Can you give our listeners some simple, practical tips that they could do if they're interested in starting to grow their own food and have this more localized experience that Elza is talking about?
Well, there's two ways. First off, making your own garden is it's a big endeavor, and I certainly encourage it. And they have lots of books online. But there's also there's a lot of local farmers now that have organic, really good food and also farmers markets. And so I certainly would like to support a garden, but check out your local farmer, get the organic food, and it's really a good idea now, especially to get local food sources that are organic. And a lot of these people now have, like, you get shares in the farm. And so every week they make boxes, they'll deliver it to your house on whatever's being produced at the farm at that week. And it's sort of seasonal. And sometimes the seasonal foods are what we should be eating in that season, because that's kind of how we were designed. And so it doesn't cover all your food sources, but that's a really good, I think, a really quick and easy way for people to get into garden, organic, farm fresh, or fresh foods, is by supporting your local farmer.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah, because not everybody has time to water a garden or plant a garden or pull the weeds and, cultivate all that. And some people might just be intimidated by the process because they think it's too big and takes too long. So I love that suggestion of just go to a farmer's market and try to buy local, try to buy organic whenever you can, and potentially join a local farming co-op. Elza, any other suggestions on that front for how people could tap into local sustainable food sources?
I mean, I think that's the biggest one. I know for people in, urban situations, there's a lot of urban gardening projects popping up. So getting a garden plot or, getting in on some of the, urban farmer markets that are happening. I think now more than ever, even to evolve this beyond the importance of this for our own health and vitality individually, is, we're going to be seeing a huge shift and change in the systems of how technology and land ownership and water is impacting food. And we have a movement towards small, sustainable organic farming as a evolutionary or remembering that's going to be saving so much of our earth energy. However, there's powers that be, and there is systems and structures that are in place that are trying their hardest to take the small local farmers out, to, limit and to, keep this industrialized monocropping, pillaging of the soil and its nutrients. This whole practice of industrialized farming has really got us up, for lack of a better word, like up the creek without a paddle.
Yeah.
And so, even what Ken said about finding, it is accessible, like get into a CSA, get into a food co-op, go see where your food, your kids and go pick raspberries from, the raspberry farm, like get that relationship going. And what you spend your dollar on to then nourish yourself, you should be thinking about feeling really good for the evolution of, what small scale organic farming can do for our future and what it is up against. And we need to protect that with our dollars and with our intentions.
Protect it and support it. So, be conscious and aware of the impact that the money that you spend can have on local farmers. So something to definitely consider. I appreciate you bringing that up. Can we dive into seasonal health, please? I'm curious. Some of our listeners might not know about seasonal health, and you guys are in for a real treat. If any of this conversation has been resonating with you, we're gonna share some more information at the end, and we'll post all of Elza's amazing resources in our show notes for you guys today. But her magazine and her podcast, Reasons and Season, is phenomenal. And Elza takes us through seasonal health, everything from that you can do in each season to support your health, from nutrition to exercise to art to music to poetry to great podcasts and interviews. And she's got all sorts of stuff in there. But Elza, for people who've never thought about or heard about seasonal health, can you just high level explain to us what it is and what's it all about?
So just like we were talking about this relationship to nature and this relationship to rhythms, we are, essentially we're animals in this wild environment around us, although we have, become urbanized and we have become domesticated, and we've used this amazing intellect and intelligence to evolve, maybe for good, or maybe sometimes we've taken wrong turns. We still exist in an environment. There's no doubt that you can walk outside and there's going to be a sky above your head. There's going to be ground beneath your feet. Hopefully there's some grass and trees around you. There's probably some rocks. There might be a body of water. And all of these things, the trees, the dirt, the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars, they are moving in rhythms. They're moving in cycles. The trees bloom in the spring. They put their buds and their blossoms in the spring, and then they bear fruit in the summer. And then, in the middle of winter, after the fall leaves have dropped and the energy is retracted back into the roots, the, dead branches fall off and the trees go dormant in the wintertime to save their energy to recreate that lifestyle, that life cycle the next year. So just like a tree is in this, natural rhythm, and, here in Colorado, we're really, really blessed because these natural rhythms are very defined for us. Like our 4 seasons are very clear. We're moving through these seasons within ourselves. And so there's a beautiful poetic relationship of the idea of the natural terrain of the environment as a reflection of the natural terrain of our bodies. It is studied through classical Chinese medicine. I became really fascinated by seasonal living through my study in Chinese medicine, but more particularly before that is growing up around a family of farmers and gardeners, and gardening year in and year out and cultivating plants and watching them move through their life cycles. And then seeing this beautiful relationship that I had to my own psychological, physical, emotional, and overall experiences of my life be mirrored in what was happening in the seasons around me. After I became a mother, I noticed that, springtime, my kids have growth spurts. In summertime, the kids like fully come out and express like their new full potential and ideas, right? So there's so many ways that we can look at seasonal living and how it impacts our psyche and how it impacts our body rhythms. And the Reasons in Season project really for me was kind of like a brainchild that I had brewing for many years in clinic, because basically, people were coming to me with all their problems and they had all their health challenges and they have like the laundry list of issues and they have all the things that they want to, shift and change in their bodies. But my question to them kept being, well, are you breathing? Are you taking time to move? Are you taking time to eat well? Are you taking time to recognize that, it's really cold outside and your body is asking for a little bit more internal time, and it's maybe not time to be, going out and sweating and running 6 miles every morning and opening up your pores. And then all of a sudden you have a cold invasion coming in. So it's like patterns and patterns and patterns of where I started to see people's biorhythms fighting against natural rhythms, hormones fighting against natural rhythms, the idea that, women are supposed to be productive in these certain cycles. And like, this is how we exist in our social conditioning. Well, we have the burnout and the CEO syndrome of women whose hormones have gone super crazy. And what is that about? It's about, kind of like paddling upstream and going against the grain of nature. And so I started to see this not only in, through women's health. It became very clear to me through women's health, fertility, childbirth work that I was doing, my own children. And I started to realize, there's a reason that we do certain things and there's a season that we do certain things. We don't harvest during the springtime, typically. We plant seeds during the springtime, right? We don't prune and take the dead material and recycle it during, the summertime, maybe a little bit to help the fruition come to existence. But essentially we can find what the way that a forest regenerates itself throughout the year is the same thing that our psyche and our bodies are going through. And I think it's just such a platform to talk about and discuss like these different ways of returning to our natural pattern language and the way that it can help us evolve from how we move, how we eat, how we sleep, how we think, what kind of emotions we're processing, and how we're actually creating our lives, how we're bringing our gifts to fruition and how they mature and they prune back and they go dormant and then they rekindle themselves. There's this beautiful natural intelligence and pattern language that it infuses every aspect of our being.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing all that. Do you have any favorite seasonal tips for summertime that you'd like to share with us?
Summertime is all about making space for the heat to come into us. It's not about putting the air conditioner on and staying out of the sun and, staying cool. It's actually time to lengthen and open ourselves up and make space within us so that heat can move through us. So it's time to sweat. It's time to express. It's time to stay up late and laugh and have fun with your friends and gain that inner intimacy and joy and creative pleasure of, shared experiences and parties. It's the time for bringing our gifts into the world. So anything that is centered around creative expression, I think summer is a great time to really increase our cardiovascular system. So really heating things up, like running and expanding and opening our body pores. Sweating is really great during the summer, making sure we're staying hydrated so that we can get really hot. Right. So like not going against the grain is my main thing with that. And I think, eating foods that are lighter, eating foods that have a lot of water content in them. So that means, fruits and vegetables that are going to keep us hydrated and keep us nourished. And then it's time to just fully let it all out. Let your pores open, let your heart open, get long, get lengthy, get expansive, and get expressive.
Awesome. By the time this podcast airs, it very well could be fall. So same question. Any suggestions for fall living?
So this is the time where our harvest has been done. We've taken stock of everything that we'll kind of hold on to coming into the colder and more months of reprieve. Mm-hmm. And this is the time for letting go. Trees are beginning to drop their leaves. It's letting go of the habits and patterns that aren't serving us, letting go of the growth that brought itself to fruition and has now been harvested. And, we can move on to our next projects and our next experiences. I find that, entering into any kind of healing work in the fall season is really powerful and really transformational, especially considering it's the time of letting go. It's the time of release. So it's a time that is designed for us to clear and to move on. So things that, we've been controlling and holding on to and feeling guilty about and like packing down and poisoning ourselves with, there's a natural potential to let that stuff go. The way we do that is we support the lungs to take in and to flush out. We support the colon to clear. And we take the time it takes to actually sort and release.
Awesome. Lung and colon health need to be on our priority list for consideration this fall. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Well, and we usually, when we look at it, want to start thinking about like in the late summer, we think about supporting the lung and colon because it's going to get heightened energy in the fall. Mm-hmm. So we want to be in ahead, right? So we want to be thinking about how we push ourselves into that next season with the resources because they all build on each other, right? And that's really the Reasons in Season project, like what we've really looked at through the digital magazines, through the practices, through the interviews is the strategies for how to have right alignment in each season that then supports the evolution and transition into the next season.
It's beautiful. We are definitely going to post the links to your magazine below here. And so if you guys want to tap into more of Elza's wisdom, you can do that for free. It's a phenomenal magazine, and it's jam-packed with recipes, exercises, philosophy, art, videos with Qigong and Yin yoga, and a variety of other really awesome things, including interviews with Ken. So if you guys want to tap into that, please do check out the show notes. All right, guys. Well, we are getting close to, I think, the end of the hour here. And I know you both have other things going on today, but just want to talk just briefly, Elza, about your athletic performance experience. Not only are you an instructor of martial arts, but you're also a practitioner yourself and a student. And as I understand it, you are about to test for your second black belt, which is extremely impressive. Tell us a little bit about, tools and remedies that you utilize to support your athletic performance.
So there's a long list of things, but I think that really it's centered around very simple resources of self-care, sleep, and a healthy diet. I started using C60 Purple Power the first time I was testing for my first degree black belt, actually a few months before my test when I was training pretty intensely. And I have not stopped using C60 Purple Power. That one to me was really, really profound, in addition to like having proper rest, having proper stretching and rehab time, as well as like increasing and developing training over a period of time. I began to immediately notice I was less sore. And I was able to kind of fire on all cylinders and be able to transition between my work in the dojo, practitioner, my self development, which is, it's huge. It's mental, it's spiritual, it's physical, it's emotional. There's lots of things going on with the martial arts journey. And I felt like I was just able to be running on all cylinders more effectively to handle all of the transformation that I was going through. And then as I have, transitioned and evolved into teaching, and we have our own school here in Crestone, Colorado, the shift and transition between teacher and practitioner, between mom and teacher, between clinician and magazine and podcast creator, and like all these different hats that I wear, I find that having like proper detox, having proper cellular function. And I can tell, like when these things are getting stagnant, when they're not running, I get tired, I get a little maybe irritable with my kids. I felt like the C60 became like a buffer as well as a synthesizer of my life. So not only like synthesizing all that I was processing physically, mentally, emotionally, growth wise, but that it synthesized my life in a really kind of like subtle but profound way. I guess that's the best way I could describe it. But yeah, being able to be embodied and being able to care for myself and being able to rest and recuperate and regenerate, that C60 has been such a powerful asset to that for me.
That's awesome. Ken, for our listeners, can you just explain why Elza and other athletes might feel less sore when they utilize C60?
Well, C60 is one of the world's most powerful antioxidants. And one of its best things is in mitochondria functioning. The mitochondria actually uptake it and they use it as an antioxidant. As we get older, a lot of the antioxidant our bodies make, like superoxide dismutase and catalase and glutathione and CoQ10, go down. And C60 can perform many of those functions. So when C60 gets uptaken in the mitochondria, it's an SOD mimic, superoxide dismutase. So now your mitochondria can turn themselves back on. And the mitochondria, of course, are the powerhouses of the cell. So now you've got ATP being produced, which is the energy molecule of the cell. So now your cell has the energy it needs to do all of its functioning. And that's one of the other profound things. And also, when you work out a lot and do a lot of physical exercise, you produce a huge amount of oxidative radicals, which can really overwhelm, the cell's oxidative ability. And so when you have C60 in there, it can take up the slack and get rid of a lot of those oxidative radicals. So one of the things people notice when athletes especially, taking C60 is DOMS, a delayed onset muscle soreness. That's muscle soreness you get a couple days after you work out really hard. That goes way down. And that's caused by oxidative stress. You have oxidative radicals, they're cross-linked proteins, they'll damage membranes, make aldehydes, which then cause other problems, and all that kind of thing, and can damage even RNA and DNA. So when you have the C60 in there, it'll stop that oxidative damage before it happens, and it allows your body to heal up and get other benefits from exercise much more quickly.
Thank you. Got some special offers for our listeners today. Do you want to explain to them what they might be able to tap into if they want to connect with you and work with you further?
Yeah, we have reasonsmag.com is my digital interactive platform. That platform is a membership-based platform that gives you access to all of our digital magazines, podcasts, tons, like an entire library of free seasonal content, which includes philosophy, art, music, yoga, healing practices, as well as a ton of seasonal recipes, lots of really amazing recipes using C60 too. We had so much fun bringing the C60 into the different recipes and like bringing it in with the foods that we were preparing for each season. Yeah, so it's almost like an entire library of information. And through that membership, we also offer courses, so education courses on your internal internal technologies, which we talked about. One of the courses that I find is the most foundational and important is the Breath 101 course. This is a free course. So you can go to reasonsmag.com. Right there at the top, it's going to say free Breath 101 course. You can sign up, get access to that. And it's, hours and hours of different practices in philosophy and education around really rekindling a relationship with the different functions, structures, and efficiencies that your breath can provide you, which I think is the base of everything. So definitely check that out, reasonsmag.com, get that free Breath 101 course. And if you're interested in going a little deeper, we offer monthly wellness courses for a membership. And then if you are interested in doing one-on-one work to dig into your own unique, individual, mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional layers of health, I do offer one-on-one sessions as part of our memberships as well, which you can find out about all of those different ways to get involved with the education and the courses under the courses tab at reasonsmag.com.
Awesome. Thank you. I know so many people are going to appreciate tapping into those resources. And thank you. Thank you for sharing the breathwork course. That is huge. Elza, I've so enjoyed speaking with you today and learning more about our body's internal technologies. Do you have any, parting words of wisdom for our listeners about how best to access our breath, heart awareness, intuition, intention, and or how to synthesize all of it?
Take the time it takes. We get this one body, this one beautiful set of experiences, and this one beautiful unfolding roadmap of full potential and full expression in your life. And nothing should come in front of that. So take that time it takes and put the intention and the action into that self-discovery and the expression of that in the world. And you'll thank yourself for it as you grow and evolve who you are in this world.
Awesome. Ken, any parting words of wisdom for our audience about how they can continue to take back control over their health?
Well, it's summertime. It's time to get out of the house and go enjoy nature and just having a great time. I mean, winter will be here soon, so get out and enjoy your summer.
I love it. Good reminders. Thank you so much, Elza and Ken. Thanks so much for listening to us today. Stay healthy and stay well, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.